Hi gardening lovers, just a quick update to show the progress and the lack of progress combined, which is usual for gardening season I think, that I am experiencing. This is my raised bed and it's doing actually really well. On this end I have carrots, 3 rows of carrots, 2 that were planted, when were they planted? At the end of April. And then the row in the middle was planted in the end of May. So I should have carrots at different times. Then the next row is a row of kale. The kale plants are looking, get down close. The kale plants are looking pretty good. Then I have a mixed row of kale and chard next. So that's chard, kale, kale. And then I have a whole big mass of chard all in here, and then yellow onions along this edge here. So yeah, one thing that I did differently this year was that I did not use pellet fertilizer, okay? And I have definitely noticed that things are not growing as fast as they do when you do use that pellet fertilizer. But I've read different things online about that type of fertilizer, about how it can eventually kind of wreck your soil and leave things in your soil that you don't want in your soil. So I decided, okay, well, I'm just gonna go au naturel this year. So what I've used in this bed is a top dressed with some compost, and I used earthworm castings in the rows. So when I dug the rows, I worked in earthworm castings at that point. So just going with the natural fertilizers this year, and like I say, I'd say everything is a little bit further behind. My zucchinis and cucumbers are definitely further behind, and I'll show you guys those as well. But as you can see, everything's still, you know, it's still coming along. I mean, the point is just to grow food, right? And so you know, it's nice if you can grow food earlier on, but as long as you're getting some food. Today is July 5th. Yeah, July 5th. So I did an update exactly 1 month ago, and this is the progress that's happened in 1 month. So the way that I water is every other day. So I do a deep water every other day. Now we just went through a crazy heat wave. I would say it's geoengineered. I don't think this is natural weather we're experiencing. And so when that happened, I put these awning type things over top of these plants, and then I put an old beige shower curtain on it. I just twist tied it on, and that was their makeshift sunshade. I tried to find actual sunshade material, but I couldn't find any. So I was like, all right, we're just gonna make do with a shower curtain here. And luckily I had these awning type things from my building. The owner of the building kept these when he took the awnings down off the windows, so they work perfectly. They're nice and light. So I just set those over top of there. And so I think I've definitely warded off the worst of the heat damage, but I'm not sure how much that affected the growth, because kale and chard both are cool weather plants. They don't like crazy heat. So the carrots are fine. The carrots were fine. I wasn't even shading the carrots, and as you see they're still green and looking good. Okay, so that's the raised bed. Again, every other day watering, and then, sorry, when it was really extremely hot, I would just take the watering can out the next day, on the off days, and just kind of sprinkle around if anything looked like it needed a bit of water. If there was any patches that were dried out, I did that. So now I'm going to go over to the hedge bed, the bed that I dug around the hedges, and this end is the herb garden, and I've already taken 1 giant harvest off of this oregano, and there will be definitely another big harvest. So I'm drying the oregano. I just air dry it on paper towels, and yeah, okay, well, that's maybe not that efficient. If you have a screen or something like that, you can put it out in the hot sun, and that'll definitely dry it a lot faster. But I don't really mind just having some oregano kicking around on my table. So I basically just leave it there for like 2 weeks and then it's dry. In front of the oregano is a bunch of chives that are growing up. I don't know if they're clearly visible. And then beside them is thyme. And this thyme hasn't grown as much, but I will have a good harvest off of that, and I'll dry whatever I get. And then, of course, we've got the huge strawberry patch, which has just kind of exploded this year, which is awesome. I had a lot of strawberries off of this bad boy, and this must be an early variety because they were ready in the first week of June, and a lot of people were surprised that I was getting strawberries that early, but they pretty much always produce the first week of June. So yeah, I've had quite a few strawberries off of here, and I've dried a bunch of them in the oven. That worked really nicely. It takes a really long time though, so I actually only dried them before the crazy heat wave hit. And basically what I do, I cut them in half and I put them on parchment paper on a cookie sheet with the cut half up, and I cooked them at, dried them, I guess, at 200 degrees. And it took about 5 or 6 hours before they were all done. The smaller pieces were dry earlier, but yeah, it took a good, I'd say, almost 6 hours for the bigger pieces to come about. I also froze some of the strawberries, and then of course just ate them as I picked, and I was also able to give some away to the people in my building. So yeah, they were plentiful. I'm really excited to have all those dried guys for the winter, and a few bags of them in my freezer. So yeah, strawberries basically last about a month. That's about it. So for me anyway, for this variety that I have, from about the beginning of June to the beginning of July, there's really only a spotty little handful of them left, and the bugs are getting to them. So that's pretty much it for strawberry season, which is sad, but the plants are looking good. And as you can see, this is a runner, and that's the little baby strawberry plant that will grow there, hopefully, if he gets gets dug in there. And this is another little baby strawberry plant that would have come from a runner. So as you can see, they just keep spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading, which I don't mind because I love strawberries, but I will probably try to move some of these plants around into other spaces if they start getting totally crazy. Okay, so now this next little section is not growing that great, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if the soil down here is depleted or what, but I have beets. I have beets planted all in here, and as you can see, they're just really tiny still. And this is chard. So as you can see, the chard in the raised bed is doing really wicked. This chard's not doing that well. And the weird thing is that in previous years, it's been the opposite. The chard that I planted in here, like actually in the ground, did fine and was like green and lush and looking gorgeous, and the stuff in the raised bed didn't do so well. So gardening, it's just, you never know. You literally never know. I mean, I think you could be 80 years old and be a gardener, and still there's just that element of, that unexpected element where you just don't know what's gonna grow well and what isn't. Now, I think there are some gardeners that just really have it down pat and they pretty much never have failures, but I am certainly not that kind of gardener. So anyway, hoping that this stuff is going to just kind of keep going, and by fall I'll have some good harvest there. Now you can probably see the onions. The onions haven't really done anything much more. They're of course growing beneath the ground, not on the top. But I have a bunch of both yellow onions and some volunteer red onions that popped up. That's a volunteer right there. Okay, and now we're moving on to the zucchinis. Now I'm going to say that in previous years, I would be eating my first zucchini right now. Okay, or close to now anyway. And as you can see, these bad boys are not even close to producing a zucchini. So again, I'm like, what the heck, why you guys, why? Did the heat stunt you? Is the soil not to your liking? You know, what's going on? Again, though, I didn't use that pellet fertilizer. So the pellet fertilizer I think it's basically considered like chemical fertilizer. I don't know what it is. You buy it at the store. There was basically a bag of it left in the gardening shed here, so I just sprinkled some in, and it really does help them to grow. But it's not necessarily balanced, you know, it can leave behind like salt and stuff in your soil, so I didn't do it. Then of course the one that most people use is Miracle-Gro, right? And most organic gardeners absolutely hate Miracle-Gro, so I didn't use that either. So I'm just gonna have to be patient with these little zucchinis. Now each of these zucchinis has 2 plants in it. Usually I thin them to just 1 plant, the strongest plant, but I did see online this year, which totally blew my mind, that some people do not thin their zucchinis or their cucumbers, or some people don't thin anything, like including their carrots. So they leave their carrots like all bunched together, which I don't know how that works. But anyway, so I left 2 of these in each little pod to see how they're gonna go. And then this guy, this is my saddest little zook, as you can see. He did not do well in the heat. So I just started to shield him from the heat. I'm gonna change to manual focus, sorry, so I can hone in on this guy. I don't know if that's, but you can see that he's stressed and he's getting eaten by bugs because, you know, usually when the plants are stressed, they start getting eaten by bugs. But he's getting watered regularly, and he's getting shielded on the hottest days, so I don't know. I've got some leaves around him for mulch, and gonna hope for the best. Gonna hope for the best. Then this is his neighbor. This guy's looking a little bit better. You can see it's like green. He's not getting eaten. These leaves are yellowish and getting eaten, but these ones are looking good. So anyway, hopefully I will end up having a good number of zucchinis. It's just gonna be later than usual, which is fine. Same with the cucumbers. Okay, these are the cucumbers, and as you can see, right, it's like, why do these guys grow so much and these guys don't? And again, there are 2 cucumber plants in each of these little pods here. And again, normally I would thin them to just 1. I'm gonna experiment and see how it goes. And then these guys are just singles. And they've been struggling, but now I see that the heat actually did good things for these cucumbers, I think. Or at least it didn't do any harm, because as you can see, they're kind of deep green color, and you know, they're looking healthy. And these guys are looking way healthier than they had been. I didn't even know if they were gonna survive. So even though they're still really little, you know, it looks like they're still gonna grow and produce cucumbers. So yeah, so anyway, that's my hedge bed garden. And like I say, everything is, other than the cucumbers and the herbs, everything is behind this year. But that's just kind of the way she goes. I've been gardening in this ground for 4 years now. It might be just that it's starting to get depleted, although it has had, like I said, compost, earthworm castings, direct composting. I've just trench composted here, so I don't know, you guys, I don't know. Anyway, that's the progress for July 5th, 2005. And I'm gonna start eating this kale and chard pretty soon, so I wanted to get a shot of it before I start hacking away at it. But as you can see, like, these guys are just about big enough to eat in a couple days maybe. And some of these are big enough to eat. So I'll start having my first feed of chard, which is exciting. And then same with the kale. The kale's getting pretty decently big. I would leave it for a little bit longer. Although the young leaves are really tender and really nice. So, and then the carrots are looking really good. They'll still be really tiny under there, but the greens are showing that they're healthy. Now, this is my basil. I showed you guys the early stages of these bad boys, and they're looking really nice too. This is the first year that I'm putting anything in containers, and so I'm pleasantly surprised. Now, I was growing spearmint, but I grew the plant and it didn't taste anything like spearmint or smell like spearmint. And every time I touched the plant, I would get stung by it, just like the way a stinging nettle stings you. So I was like, you know, I don't think it's gonna work out between us, spearmint. I'm sorry. So I just grew these basils, and this one I think has like 5 basil plants in there. I wasn't sure how many I could actually get out of this pot, but I didn't have the heart to pull any more seedlings. There were a ton of seedlings that came up in this, and I pulled some of them, but I left 5. And then in this one, this is just one big guy that I started inside, and then one little one. And I will say that for me, I don't think it's worth starting them inside, because as you can see, like, there's very little growth difference between the ones that were planted direct from seed outside and the one that was planted indoors. And the one that was planted indoors, I had to harden off over a week's period or something. So honestly, it's just labor intensive for what you can see is not a huge amount of growth. Huge amount of difference, I should say. So anyway, guys, surviving the heat dome. We're surviving the heat dome here. I'm babying these guys a little bit with the sunshades, and I will continue to do that on any day. I'm thinking any day that's above about 34. That's getting too hot, at least for the chard and the kale. The zucchinis can possibly stay out under that. But we were getting like low 40s, feeling like 47, feeling like 45. That's just way too hot for anything, really. So it was really important to keep it all watered, keep it all well watered. And then, like I said, shading the cool weather plants and whatever plants looked like they were really suffering. So anyway, that's my update, and I hope you're also having more wins than losses this gardening season as well.